Hi, I'm so glad you're here today. Thanks for coming to my video on DBT skills. I think this is video number 5. Still pretty new at this, trying to get it figured out. Haven't quite got it figured out yet, but I'm still rolling with it. In any case, so today we're talking about clarifying goals in interpersonal situations. And so, as we've discussed before, interpersonal situations is just a fancy way of saying like people skills. How do you get better with your people skills? So this worksheet is page 124 of this book, DBT Skills, Training, Handouts, and Worksheets. And this book is by Marsha Linehan, and you can buy this book any of the places that you buy books. So I'm sure it's available online or at your local bookstore. So today I want to talk about clarifying goals in interpersonal situations. And I want to clarify, first of all, that when we clarify our goals in interpersonal situations, we're looking at 3 different aspects. We're looking at the objective that what is it that we're trying to accomplish? For example, if I'm asking you to mow the yard, then my objective is get the yard mowed, right? We're also wanting to balance the relationship. And so if I'm asking you to mow the yard, then I maybe want to look at my relationship with you, and is that even an appropriate thing for me to be asking of you? And we want to look at this third side, the self-respect. So how do I want to deal with myself within this, within obtaining this objective and maintaining this relationship? So it's 3 sides. I do it as a triangle, and I'm not an artist by any means, but I really want to think about it like a 3-sided stool. And so like if any of the 3 pegs were to, not be sturdy, then the stool would wobble or potentially fall or break or not hold up things. Yeah, so as you're thinking about clarifying a goal in a relationship or clarifying interpersonal situations and clarifying your goals in those situations, I also want you to think about like a 3-sided stool. Okay, does achieving your goal put one of the other legs out of balance? Does maintaining the relationship put one of the other legs out of balance? Does your self-respect or your ego put one of the other legs out of balance? So we're going to go a little bit deeper into this. And of course, the sheet is in the workbook, and you can purchase that, or if you want to zoom in, you can zoom in and see it. So with those 3 sides, I actually want to talk about this bottom category first, the self-respect. And I put it here. I have had several conversations recently about Machiavelli, and you may know that Machiavelli was an advisor to a king in ancient times, long time ago. And Machiavelli had this perspective that when you had an objective, you should seek your objective by any means necessary. And so Machiavelli was not so keen on self-respect, other than the king should have ultimate power. He was not interested in maintaining relationships. In his mind, murder was perfectly appropriate if that's what you needed to do to seek your objective. In his mind, objectives were the things that mattered. And so he kind of looked at life, I think, like a chessboard, and whatever it took to win the game was the most important thing, without really giving any kind of credence to these others. And so I think in terms of self-respect, I think in terms of who do you actually want to be? If your value is only power, and the king should have no other, no one should ever get between the king and whatever the king should want, then your self-respect might be determined by how much power the king has. If your values include integrity, you might decide that you want to be somebody who wants what they want, but not if they have to lie to get it, or not if they have to cheat, or not if they have to use others, or something like that. And so that one category here is who do you want to be? I like to use the phrase, I've worked with a lot of teenagers and young adults, and sometimes I have a young guy coming in who is just all about, I gotta go beat this guy up, about something or something else. And and in that situation, as we talk about it, the person in front of me will be telling me that they need to go beat up some monster, somebody they've identified as a bad guy, somebody that they've identified as some kind of monster, and the monster needs to be hurt or put in their place or whatever the case is. And as we talk through the process of how do you put a monster, how do you put the monster in its place, I hear the individual in front of me talking about doing some of the same things that the monster has done. And my phrase that I use often is don't let yourself become the monster you seek to destroy. If you decide that you will do whatever, by any means necessary to obtain your objective, are you honoring your own values, your own integrity, and the person that you want to be? Or are you just becoming another monster to replace the monster that you're seeking to destroy? So to me, that's a very important aspect in obtaining objectives, is noticing whether or not you're becoming a monster. Um, okay, so then we move on to the other pegs of the other legs of this three-sided stool. And let's talk about the relationship next. In the relationship, and you can zoom in and read some of these things here, but essentially, in a nutshell, the relationship piece is, how do you want your relationship to be? If this is a situation that you want to maintain a relationship with this person, maybe it's somebody that you've decided that you want to live with or commit your life to, or maybe it's your child or your parent or somebody that you value and respect, a colleague, coworker, a boss or employee. You want to think about, how do you want the relationship to be? Do you want the relationship to be like that all-powerful king where whatever I say goes, and if anybody gets in my way, I'll flip their heads? Or do you want the relationship to be more collegial, more friendly, more welcoming, more egalitarian? Do you want the relationship to be a relationship that you know that you both have a voice and can bring up an issue and work on solving it together? Or do you want it to be a relationship where only you get to decide what happens and they don't really get a voice at all? And so, in thinking about those processes and those, like, how do I want this relationship to be, then you can better decide how to move forward. And then on the third side, which actually is the top thing here, the third side of the triangle, or maybe the first side of the triangle, depending on your perspective, what's the objective? So I mentioned before, I'm a therapist and a coach, and I have very, very often, I have clients coming in who tell me about a difficulty in their life, and my response to them was, what do you want? What is it that you want out of this situation? And that often gets a pause, because very often we haven't really even thought about what specifically we're wanting out of the situation. We know that we might not be enjoying how something is going, but just taking a moment to ask ourselves, okay, what specifically is it that I am wanting today? What am I asking for? Or what am I trying to say no to? Or what is it that I am feeling upset about? How am I describing this problem? And what do I see as the best solution for it? And then this next part is, what do you have to do to get there? What do you have to do to get what you want? And is what you have to do worth it in terms of your own self-respect and the relationship? And so just kind of going through a process of asking yourself, okay, what is it that I want? Is what I want, is it owed to me? Do I have a legitimate right to ask for it? Or am I just, asking for things that I don't really have a right to ask for? Or am I trying to say no to something? And what is it that I want out of that particular situation? What is my objective? That was something that Machiavelli never had any problems with. He always knew what his objective was. I want to take over that country or that that area, that kingdom. Pretty easy to decide for him. And then taking the moment of, okay, what do I want? And how do I want that relationship to be? And how do I want to feel about myself. And as you walk through that process, things can become more clear on how to proceed and how to move forward, and maybe how to have a conversation with the people with whom you're in relationship, and talk with them about, these are the things that I want, and maybe hear their perspective on the things that they want, and come to some solutions that work for everyone. Okay, so that's our lesson for today. It's page 124 of the DBT handout book. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions or comments, certainly feel free to hit me up. Leave a comment below. And if you feel like this is worth sharing, please share it. Thank you so much for coming. And please remember, as always, I am still rooting for you to be the very best you that you can be. Thanks.